Welcome back and thank you for joining me. Carol Higgins, age 55, finally ended a 39-year battle for justice after she was sexually abused by her father, Elliot Appleyard, now 76, when she was just 13 years of age. She said she was made to wear her father's wife's engagement ring. And she's written a book called Conquering the Impossible about it, making the dream come true. It was published in 2015. The reason that she won compensation against the police force, she won £15,000 payout and apology from police after the officers initially dissuaded her from reporting him by telling her she would look like the biggest, that it would blacken her name. She tried many other times to get some kind of justice. She first reported her father to the police in 1985 and four more separate occasions, stretching from 1984 to 2015. But it wasn't until 2019 that he was jailed for 20 years for the crimes. I'm just hoping that we actually get her. We're trying to get Carol up at the moment. Let me give you a little bit of background. Her father had raped the vulnerable teenager between 1983 and 1985, Leeds Crown Court heard in 2019. And a jury of 7 women and 4 men took less than 2 hours to unanimously find Appleyard guilty of the 15 charges following a 7-day trial. He was convicted of 5 counts of rape, 10 counts of indecent assault. During the trial, Mr. Hampton, prosecuting, said the abuse had, quote, destroyed all her adult life, and she'd received counselling for many, many years. He said that Appleyard of Denby Dale near Huddersfield, West Yorkshire, had ruled the household through violence and threats of beatings. Now we're hoping to get, I hope that we do get Carol into online, because her story is absolutely amazing. Let me just remind you, if you want to call in about this or anything, the number to call is 0344 499 1000. You can text the word talk to 87222, or X at Talk TV. Let me know what you think. I mean, this is an awful, awful case. It's not an isolated case, sadly enough, because you have to think back to the 1980s when these were initially made. Actually coming out and giving evidence against a parent about something like sexual abuse was something that, quote unquote, wasn't done. And if you did, the police would point out, and it may or may not have been true, that if you did actually speak out against it, you would be the one who was labelled, labelled the wrong one. No other way to put it. Now, Carol, since then, I'm just having a look, I had a look at her website. Since then, talking about putting the pieces back together again, she is involved in extreme sports like skydiving, mountaineering, scuba diving, skiing, volunteering and fundraising. She's the survivor, obviously, of sexual and psychological abuse. And has survived cancer as well. We're going to get her on the phone. I think we've had problems with her getting her actually online, but her story anyway is absolutely compelling. When I read those headlines, as I said, what I love doing, even though their stories are very challenging to hear, is hearing from people who've been through hellish times, absolutely hellish times, when many of us would have given up or succumbed, and somehow they've just kept going. Not only that, they fought back. Not only that, in doing so, they've helped many, many, many other people find a voice, and many other people, are inspired by them. And as I said, Carol had to self-publish her own book about this. I'm just hoping, let's see if is Carol on the line? Let's see. Let's see if we've got her. Let me just ask my team back in London if we finally got Carol. We've We've had problems with her connection, so we're actually phoning her now, hoping to get her online. One, she's ready. Carol Higgins joins me now. Carol, thank you so much for joining me, albeit on the phone, and I wish we could have seen each other in person. But when did this all start for you? Take me back to 13-year-old Carol Higgins.
13-year-old Carol Higgins was living in Denby Dale, and I'd gone with my mum and my dad, and I'd gone to live in Penistone, and then come back to live with my dad because things was difficult with my mum. And so I'd only been and gone and left once and come back. And then my dad was kissing me, full on the lips, snogging me. And then that led on to him having intercourse with me and oral sex and digital penetration.
And he made you wear his wife's ring and get a tattoo?
Yeah, he put my mum's engagement ring on my finger and took me to a tattoo parlour in Barnsley with my name and his name on it in between a big English rose. His nickname was Sam.
What did he say that was all about? How did he explain as a 13-year-old girl, how the hell did he explain that?
To the tattoo artist?
Yeah, God.
I don't know. He had a swallow on his neck on that day. So he had a tattoo of a swallow on his neck. And I had that one. And he just didn't seem to care, the tattoo artist.
And what did he say to you? What did he say that meant?
He didn't say it meant anything. He just said, started a conversation up about having a tattoo, because it was my dad and he suggested it, and I hung on to my dad's every word. I believed everything he said, and he says, do you want a tattoo? And so, I don't know, I just went along with everything.
How did that change you as a 13-year-old girl? I mean, when you look back, did you know? Well, it sounds silly when you say it's wrong. As you say, it's your dad, and you think your dad's going to look after you. But did it change you at school, the way you were?
It made me feel like I was a slag when I got that tattoo on me. And I'd always been told that I'd end up having a dozen abortions like our Tony by my dad, and it kind of made out that that's what I was. Oh. And I wasn't allowed to hang about with lads my own age, and I think he was always worried because later on in years I realised that he wanted to break me in. That was his job. He believed all fathers should break their daughters in.
Oh, God. And what about your mum? Where was your mum at the time?
She'd gone to live in Penistone. Like I said, she'd taken me with her when she left my dad, when the kissing started, but there was nothing else had started. And I had told her about the kissing, and right. She told social workers, social services, and that when I went back to live with my dad, the social worker came to the house and said, you've been to live with your mum and now you've come back to live with your dad. It's obviously you can't make your mind up who you want to live with. So if you change your mind again, you'll go into a children's home. And my sister was in a children's home, and she had severe epilepsy, and she was simple. So she shouldn't have been in a children's home. She should have been in a respite centre, if anything.
Yeah, yeah. And for you, did you ever tell anyone about what was going on?
No, not until I left at 15, when I ran away when I was nearly 16, because the social worker said that with that threat hanging over my head, if I didn't stay with my dad, that I would go into care. I was frightened that I would go into care, so I didn't tell anybody, and I just stuck it out as long as I could.
God, I'm just trying to think.
I went to live with my mum at 16, and then my mum threw me out at 16, saying she's done her job as a parent now. I'm on my own, and she says, when you'd had enough of your dad treating you like an adult, you came back to me. What the hell did you expect me to do about it? So I lived on my own in a cold rented house in Barnsley, and at 16, and I got a job on a YTS scheme at SR Gents, and my wage was £27 a week, and my rent was 30. So I used to queue up for rent and rates rebate at the Barnsley Town Hall. So by the time I got my food at the end of the week, I got a fiver left in my pocket.
Oh my God. How do you, I mean, it sounds almost a stupid question. How do you deal with that? Because again, I'm thinking all your teens were taken from you, the time when, you're out meeting lads or going to dances or doing whatever. Did you have any kind of childhood?
Not really. I was kind of a slave to the home. I used to come home from school, and my first job was to go up and make my mum and dad's bed, and it wasn't quilt covers back then either, quilts. It was a lot of sheets and blankets. And then I'd go up village shopping with a shopping list, and the shopkeepers would have to put the price on what everything costs, and then I'd come and help mum make tea, and then I'd wash up and clean up afterwards. And if I didn't do my jobs, my mum would beat me with wooden spoons and slippers, and my dad would beat me. And then, it was a tough childhood, and I had to look after my sister who was epileptic. So I suppose I did have a childhood to a certain degree, but it's hard to remember that when you've got so many negative things that's gone on in your life.
Yeah, yeah. Let's take a break, and after the break, I want to start talking about what happened when you actually told the police about this and what they said to you. We'll be back with more with Carol Higgins right after this. Welcome back. I'm with Carol Higgins, who was raped as a child by her own father. She's finally won an apology and a measly £15,000 payout from the police after officers initially dissuaded her from reporting him by telling her she'd look like the biggest you-know-what going. Carol, I've got you on screen now. Thank you again for joining me. So you finally go to the police with this. Just talk me through how they treated you, what they said to you, because it would have been difficult for you just to go.
Yeah, well, it was difficult to go because my mum did try to persuade me to go for as soon as I went to her house, and I said no, I'm too scared to go. I felt like I was to blame, like I'd asked for it, and because I hadn't kicked and screamed. And then I did go after a week, and I made a 17-page statement. And the policeman said to me, if this goes to court, your name will be dragged through the mud and blackened, and you'll be made out to be the biggest liar and you know what going. I don't know why we have to dilute that word, because I feel when we say that, when we don't use the language, I think it means that it's not as serious as it actually is. Yeah. A derogatory language used about me. And then the day after I gave my statement, they sent me and said this to me. They actually said that to me, but they still made me go to Huddersfield police station and have internal forensic tests and have me jumping up and down on blotting paper where I were internally bleeding, and pulling pubes and putting them in test tubes. It was very degrading. And then they came to my house 2 weeks later and said that they'd found no evidence, had searched his house, and that he'd been arrested, but it was all hearsay because we never get any paperwork. And he would have had to have forensic tests done as well if they took forensics off me as well. And now it's coming out years later that he was never arrested, and so I don't believe anything happened back then.
Wow. And you went not just that once, you went four times backwards and forwards. Each time, I'm just thinking the emotional turmoil and the fear, you go through all of that, nothing.
I still feel the emotional turmoil talking about it. The amount of times I had to knock on the police door. 1984, 2005, 2012, 2014, 2015, shut the door on me in 2017, said there wasn't enough evidence and it would be unfair to the suspect because it would be an abusive process. So I did my victim's right to review, and in 2018 I got it overturned and I got me in court in 2019. But when I was 15, my dad did say to my mum, F him, prove it. And it took me 35 years to prove it.
Oh my God. Did you have to see him in court?
Yep. They said to me, you can have a screen or we can do by Zoom link. And I went, you've got no chance. I'm standing there in front of him. My truth is my defence.
And did you look? What was it like looking him in the face and telling your truth after all that time?
It was his arrogance all the time. He was sat there with his arms crossed, and it put me through that denial. And his eyes locked, and he looked at me, and I looked at him, and it just felt like, this is war. That's what it felt like. And then he turned away before I turned my head away, and I thought, yeah, it is. This is war. I've got you now where I want you. And he denied it all the way through the court case, but it took only less than 2 hours for the jury to convict him.
Did you ever hear from him? Yeah, he got his time in prison, but did you ever hear from him again?
What, after he's been put in prison?
Yeah. Has he ever tried to contact you or anything like that, or is just that's it? That's the end?
No, before he got put in prison in 2017, he got an harassment charge on me, and the police were finding evidence against me.
What?
I couldn't believe it. In 2017, they put the lid and said they weren't going to charge my dad, and they sent him a lovely letter saying, we are not, in capital letters, going to charge you. And he put that letter, and in the bottom, my dad typed at the bottom of it, Carol is now under investigation for harassment, and he put that on lampposts. So they tried to turn the table on me. And then he went to the car boot sale in my next village from here, even though he had an harassment charge on me, or tried to get a charge on me. And at the car boot sale, he'd set me up with somebody to get me there, one of his friends, Peter O'Kell. And he said, I'll fucking have you, I'll fucking have you. And he said he's gonna have me. So I am scared of him. I do believe he's still got his guns, because the police said he hadn't got a license, but he hasn't come to threaten me with his guns. So therefore, they're not worried that he'll come and. But even though he's held guns to my mum's head and machetes and threatened to cut her up middle, and I witnessed him holding guns to my mum's head, and he's. So
So let me ask you this, Carol. How have you got through? You've had a lot of counselling, I know, but not only have you just got through this, the things that you've done, I was looking at your website, climbing Kilimanjaro, the stuff you've done for other people going through this, volunteering, fundraising, the youth work. How do you not get extinguished by that? How?
Because I feel if I can do for other people, it actually helps to heal me, because I was never shown that love, and by me giving love to other people, it's very cathartic for my healing journey.
So for you, I mean, all of that.
When I climbed Kilimanjaro, I did it for a charity close to my heart, because my sister needed 24/7 care. She's took her own life now. She's not alive anymore, Donna. So I speak out for Donna. My voice is for her as well.
Yeah. And for, all the counselling that you've had, even that would be painful. Do you think you'll ever get over it?
I don't know. It's like saying, will you ever feel at peace with yourself? And there are times when I do feel at peace and feel joy in my life. And there's times where I feel like I'm grieving, and, it's a very dark place. But I think we all have our cross to bear in life.
But you've done some absolutely amazing things. And I think your story of resilience, people talk about bouncing back. I always talk about crawling back from the abyss. Don't we? We crawl in any way we can, and then we slip back and we keep going. What would your advice to anyone, and there's going to be a lot of people listening who will be able to understand part of your story, because there's still so many kids suffering and so many adults who daren't speak out, who are suffering in silence?
I'd say go to the police and speak your truth. And keep knocking on that door and never give up. Yeah. And I'd write down everything, gather your evidence. And I wrote everything down, ended up writing 2 books. And my diaries kept me sane. I've got about 20 diaries here. So log everything. I got a recording app on my phone, so I actually recording the police because I felt like they were trying to pacify me, and they were like, I felt bullied by them, and that it was giving me anxiety the way that there was dragging the feet and not gathering the evidence, that I was pushing the case forward all the time. So always log everything, never give up, and keep hoping that your truth will come out, and keep speaking out the way that I did.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for joining me. And I know I don't take away from the fact it's difficult for you to even be talking about this again. I don't take that lightly. Carol Higgins there, who is a remarkable woman, what she's managed to come through, and how she's helped so many other people, even while struggling with all of that horrific background. I think you'll agree with me. What an amazing woman. We'll be back with something completely different right after this.